So there's been big news in the world of Formula One announced yesterday, late yesterday or early morning of today while I was asleep, probably. But there were rumors yesterday that Vettel might be leaving Ferrari, and I saw this on Reddit, and I was like, oh shit. It wasn't a massive surprise, but I was like, okay, interesting. Um, it wasn't confirmed yet, but I kind of did think it was gonna happen, especially since it was reported by a reputable source. And my own personal feelings on Vettel, which I'll get into later on. But yeah, it was announced in the morning that Sebastian Vettel, will be leaving Ferrari at the end of the 2020 season, if the 2020 season happens. And yeah, some people were surprised by this, and others weren't. I think the Vettel fans took it really, you know, they took it badly. I mean, understandable, he's their favorite driver and all that, but I guess I'm a neutral in all of this. I used to be a hater, not gonna lie, but I guess now I'm kind of neutral in this. I'm not surprised. I mean, as soon as Leclerc outscored Vettel last season, I was thinking to myself, I don't really see a point in Vettel continuing because he's not number one driver anymore, and he's 10 years older than Charles Leclerc, and Charles Leclerc hasn't really got any experience. He's only been in F1 for 2 seasons. His second season in F1, his first season at Ferrari, he walks into a team that is designed for Vettel. Vettel's been in that team for 4 years at that point, and everyone was built, towards Vettel. The car was built towards Vettel. The Vettel knew all the people there. Leclerc was new. He didn't really know anything, and so yeah, I was surprised when Leclerc beat Vettel. I'm sure most people expected it to be the opposite. That Vettel would probably get the upper hand, but no, Leclerc walks into Ferrari and beats Vettel. And from that point onwards, I was like, Vettel's not the number one driver anymore. And Vettel to me doesn't seem the type of person to be a number two. He wants to be a number one. He wants to be fighting for championships and fighting for, the win and be the top driver. But then, as I said, Leclerc's got the age advantage. He's already shown last year that he's better than Vettel, and I just don't see any point in Vettel continuing. Like, what is he going to gain? Apart from money, what really is Vettel going to gain out of this? Nothing. And Vettel's already got a shit ton of money, so money is not an issue for him anymore. Like, he probably doesn't care. Like, he's got billions, or maybe not billions, but hundreds of millions of whatever currency it is. So yeah, I'm not surprised that he's taken this decision at all. To be honest, if it was something like, I don't know, Nico Rosberg retiring 4 years ago, that was a shock to me. That was much more of a shock because it came out of the blue, really. Because they were both in Hamilton Rosberg in a close fight, blah blah blah. But he's funny thing is Rosberg recorded a video that year of him signing a contract extension. So we all assumed, well, I definitely assumed he was locked in for Mercedes for the next few years. And then out of the blue, he just retires after winning a championship. That was a shock. Something that would shock me today would be like Hamilton going to Ferrari, because I do not expect that at all, and I'll get into that later on as well. That would shock me, but Vettel leaving Ferrari doesn't really shock me, and if he announces his retirement from the sport, that won't really shock me either, because let's face it, Vettel got married last year. He's got 3 kids, I think, and they're all very, very young. They're all babies, I think. And I'm sure Vettel must be thinking, I've entered a new chapter in my life. Like, I am now a father. I am now a husband. I need to, this is more important. F1 is not important anymore. But, family always comes first before everything. It doesn't matter whatever it is, if it's money or fame or glory or dream job, whatever. That does not, family always comes first. And he's got his own family now, and I'm sure he's thinking about it. You know, Sebastian to me comes across as a family man, and honestly, I think he's going to be a wonderful father. I really do. Honestly, Vettel off the track is one of the most down to earth people I've seen in the sport, and I honestly think he's going to be a fantastic father. And I think he's going to raise some great people. Like, if Sebastian Vettel's your father, you're going to be a great person, I'm sure. And I wish him all the best with that. But that's my opinion. Like, in regards to, is Vettel going to go to another team or is he going to retire? I think he's going to retire. I mean, he's a four-time world champion. He's achieved everything that is possible in Formula One, and I feel like if he continues, I think his reputation will only get worse. I feel like the last two seasons have not done Vettel any favors in regards to his reputation. Like, he's like 2017, he was seen as one of the best drivers on the grid. Like, you went toe to toe with Hamilton in arguably your worst car. You know, I think 2017, some people say Vettel the best car, one of the best cars. I mean, maybe one of the best, but it wasn't the best car that season. The Mercedes was better in 2017, absolutely. 2018, on the other hand, I genuinely believe that if Hamilton was in that Ferrari, or if Alonso was in that Ferrari, or if, I don't know, Verstappen was in that Ferrari, they probably would have won the championship in that car. I think Vettel threw 2018 away. And that really, to me, was the start of his downfall. And people already questioned Vettel after he lost to Ricciardo in 2014. But you can write that off as a one-off season. You know, every driver has their bad seasons. But I don't think it's a coincidence that every time Vettel has gone up against a young teammate who's in their 20s, who's hungry for success, that he's come out as the loser. That Vettel's always come out second best. You know, beaten by Ricciardo in 2014, beaten by Leclerc last year. And the only time he's done well is he's had Kimi Raikkonen in his late 30s was way past his prime. Mark Webber in his late 30s was way past his prime and had a bike accident. I'm not going to... Look, to be a 4 times world champion, you have to be a great driver. I'm not taking anything away from Vettel. He's a fantastic driver. Just to win 1 championship, you have to be a great driver. To win 4 is a fantastic achievement. He's a great driver, one of the greatest of all time. But it has to be said that, you know, I guess when people talk about drivers in 50 years' time, people are probably going to bring up, you know, like people still bring up Schumacher and Senna cheating. Like, people still bring up when Schumacher punted off Damon Hill in 94 and Senna crashing into Prost in 1990. That was like 30 odd years ago now. So will people still bring up Vettel losing to 2 teammates that he probably should have beaten, and only being good because he had old people who were past their prime as his teammates? I don't know. But still, he's a great driver. I'm not taking away from him. He's a great driver. I just think it's not the best look, and I think it probably is best for him to retire. I think if he continues any further, I think he's only going to damage his reputation even more. Like, okay, if he goes to McLaren, and I see that as the second most likely option if he doesn't retire, I think McLaren might just be his next where I see him if he stays in F1. I have full faith in him that he can beat Lando Norris. I do really think, because I don't rate Lando Norris, to be honest. I think he's massively overrated, overhyped, whatever word you want to use. But if Vettel lost to Norris, if he did, that would be reputation destroyed, in my opinion. I just think, look, he's got a wife, he's got kids. I just think, look, I'm sure he'll be a great father. I'm sure he'll be a great husband. I just think he's probably thinking about that. I think it would be great if he just left the sport and, you know, just grew his kids into wonderful people. I think that's a great thing in itself. To start a family, watch your kids grow up and be amazing people. I think that's an achievement. That's a feel-good kind of thing in itself. And I think he'll embrace that, and I think he'll relish that. I just think he should just retire while he's still highly rated, although he does have more criticism now than he used to, but he still is highly rated. I think while he's still highly rated, he should leave. And yeah, as I said, look after his family and all that. But whatever Vettel does, I wish him all the best. If he does retire, I will probably talk more about this in a separate video. He's not retired yet, so I don't think I should be going on into his whole career and all that shit and how he made my childhood and all that stuff. I won't talk about that now. If he retires, I will. But just my thoughts of what I think he should do while that's still up for debate, before that's all announced. But yeah, on to the second part of the video, and that's who should replace Vettel after 2020. Let me do some twittering, because I saw a good post on Twitter that basically just listed all the potential options. Let me just find that. I need to go on the official F1 page, I think. Hold on. F1 Twitter. Not the most professional, but bear with me. Just need to jog my memory. There's a great list. Oh, I found it. God, come on. Yeah, I found it. Okay. So F1, the official F1 Twitter. So I'm gonna go by the official F1 Twitter because I feel that's the best way to do this. Has listed 8 potential drivers, and I'm sure they've probably just cobbled this list together from reaction that they've seen on social media and what they've also been reading in the press. Now the 2 main candidates for this Ferrari seat is Carlos Sainz and Daniel Ricciardo. Now, my personal opinion on this, I'm a Ricciardo fan. Personally, I would love to see Ricciardo go to Ferrari. Honestly, Ricciardo's got Italian blood in him. He's a great guy. He's got a great sense of humour. He's one of the most charismatic drivers on the grid. He'll be great for PR. Honestly, he'll do Ferrari wonders. Ferrari's a very egotistical, up their own arse, stiff upper lip kind of team. And I think bringing Ricciardo to Ferrari, I think might just change Ferrari for the better and make them a more positive, joyous, fun team. So that's the PR side as well. That is, Ricciardo is probably, in terms of PR, Ricciardo is the best out of all the choices. He's the best for PR. And I'd love to see him there just because I think he's a great driver. He, unfortunately, going to Renault, at the time, I kind of understood it, but with hindsight, it wasn't the best move. And at this point, it's looking like career suicide for him. And I think he really, really needs this Ferrari seat, like, badly. I imagine he's probably on the phone to Mattia Binotto, begging him, please, Mattia, give me this Ferrari seat. I promise I'll drive for free. You don't have to pay me anything. I'll do whatever you want. But he probably, if I was Ricciardo, I'd be on the phone to Binotto because I don't see Ricciardo going to Mercedes or to Red Bull. I think this is potentially his only shot at a top team, and I think he has to be in talks. Surely he must be, because Renault, for me, is out of sorts right now. I want them to do well because Ricciardo's there. And I also want them to do well because I just don't want to lose any more teams in the sport. And I think Renault is the only factory team, to me, that strikes as a team that would probably leave if they don't win. So yeah, I want Renault to do well, but I just don't see that. I really don't. I don't know. They're not as confident. They're not willing to properly invest into the sport, and to be at the top in the sport, you have to invest. You have to spend the most money. Period. Like you can't half-ass it in such a cutthroat, competitive sport that Formula One is. You can't half-ass it. You have to go all in, all the cash, throw all the cash at it. Also, throw the brains in there. Hire the most intelligent people as well. But for me, Renault doesn't have any of that. Well, I think that maybe they have it. They're just not utilising it to the fullest potential. And I just think Ricciardo's got to get out of there. He's like Renault's basically a team on fire, metaphorically, at this point. Like, it's on fire. He's got to escape. It's a burning building. He's got to leave Renault as soon as possible. And oh man, if he doesn't get a Ferrari seat, I don't know. I think that's the end of his career. He might languish in the midfield for a while and just be there for fun, but that's his chance of winning races at least out the window. He needs to pounce at this. Another candidate that is also being spoken about a lot is Carlos Sainz. I'd be okay with him being there. Like, he's not bad. He's a solid driver, and I think he did all right at McLaren last year. He did well. You know, he's best of the rest. He did good, but I can't help but feel that Ferrari are overreacting with Sainz. He's like, out of all the seasons he's had in Formula One, I feel like 2019 was his only good one. Like, 2015 it was thoroughly outclassed by Verstappen. 2016, okay, he beat Kvyat, but Kvyat was mentally broken at that point, and 2017 as well. And 2018 he was beaten by Nico Hulkenberg, who's another candidate on this list. I'll get into him as well. Nico Hulkenberg's not exactly the best driver ever, let's just say that. And I don't know, as I said, 2019 was a great year for him, but does he really deserve a Ferrari seat based on one good year? It's a bit of an overreaction if you ask me. Like, Ricciardo's proven himself to be able to compete with Vettel, compete with Verstappen, two incredible drivers. He's proven that he's maybe not right at the top, but maybe a tier below it, which is still very good if you ask me. And I think Ricciardo is like a top 5 driver on the grid. I'd say if I were to rate the best drivers in F1 right now, I'd say it was Hamilton's the best driver, Verstappen's the second best, Leclerc's the third best. Fourth best would honestly be a toss-up between Vettel and Ricciardo for me. One of those two. And then maybe slightly behind them, I don't know. I can't really rate the rest. Maybe Perez. I think Perez is decent, and he's another candidate. I'll get into him later as well. But yeah, Ricciardo needs to take that opportunity, if it is an opportunity. Carlos Sainz, I'd be okay with him. He's not the worst candidate on this list. I'd say he's like average in terms of choices. I put him somewhere in the middle in regards to this. But I'd be okay with Sainz. He's all right. He's not bad. I think he's willing to play the team game. I think he's willing to be the number 2. I'm not sure if Ricciardo's willing to be a number 2 though. That's another thing. I don't know. He seems that, honestly think he feels that he's world class. And fair enough, if you want to be the best in F1, you have to believe you're the best, but I'd rather be a number 2 driver in a top team than a number 1 driver in a midfield team. Because at least if you're a number 2 driver in a top team, you have a chance at winning something. Maybe not a championship, but a race. And getting on a podium. If you're a number 1 in a midfield team, it doesn't matter if you're number 1. You're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get any podiums or wins. So yeah, he's got to pounce at that. But yeah, Carlos is more willing, I think, more acceptant of a number 2 role, I reckon. And maybe PR as well. Like, out of all the possible candidates who are all the realistic candidates, I'd say, because there's a couple who I'm just baffled by why they're being suggested here. But out of the all realistic candidates, I think in terms of just their names, Carlos Sainz, that's a very marketable name. That would be good for PR. Like, because obviously his father is a world rally champion, multiple world rally champion, one of the greatest rally drivers of all time. And yeah, that creates marketing in itself. I mean, look at Mick Schumacher, for example. I mean, I don't think he's that good. I think he's fairly average, but he gets talked about simply because he's Michael Schumacher's son. And I see people saying, "Oh, put Mick Schumacher in the front." No, he wasn't even good in Formula 2. What makes you think he deserves a Ferrari seat, for goodness sake? He needs to prove himself in Formula 2 before that. But anyway, I'm not going to talk about Mick Schumacher. But yeah, Carlos Sainz, he's all right. He's all right. I'll rank the candidates after I finish talking about all of them. Another candidate who is on the list, Nico Hulkenberg, who I mentioned earlier. I'm sorry. This man has had 10 years of F1, or 9 years. I think it might actually be 9 years. Or is it 10? I don't know. He's had basically a decade in Formula One, and he's not scored a single bloody podium. And it's not like he's never had a chance. He's had at least, I'd say, 4, 5 chances to get a podium, and he's squandered all of them. He's had bad luck as well in the past, but he's also had opportunities where he's either crashed or just crumbled under pressure. Look at his teammate Sergio Perez. I mean, yeah, Hulkenberg was teammates with Sergio Perez for 3 years. Perez in that time, I think, scored 4 podiums, 5 podiums, 3. I don't know, but he scored podiums. That at the end of the day, multiple podiums, and Hulkenberg didn't even score one. Lance Frippin Stroll has got more podiums than Nico Hulkenberg, and you think that Nico Hulkenberg is a good candidate? I'm sorry, he has not done enough to justify being in a Ferrari. Like 10 years to do something, to get a podium, and he failed miserably. He's had 10 years in the sport. He's been paid millions of pounds, I imagine. He's had his time. Nico Hulkenberg, honestly, I'd be okay with him going to Haas. I'd be okay with anyone going to Haas, because one of the Haas drivers anyway, is a complete and utter liability in my eyes. But yeah, Hulkenberg, I'd be okay with him going to midfield team. I think he's definitely good. He's definitely F1 material. I'll say that much. He's not the worst. Like, if he was on the 2020 grid, he would not be the worst driver by a long shot. But he's not top team material. He's just not. Perez, who I'll get onto, for me is the most underrated driver on the grid, and it's just a crime that he's not had a shot in the top team yet. This guy has scored 8 bloody podiums in midfield cars. He's never had a race-winning car ever in his entire F1 career. Yet he's had nearly 10 podiums. He's had nearly as many podiums as Romain Grosjean, who drove a top-tier Lotus for 2 seasons. The guy, he deserves a breakthrough, long overdue in my eyes. Like, and I've seen people on Twitter saying he's toxic, blah blah blah. But does it really matter? Because I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Leclerc. If you're nowhere near as good as Leclerc, I don't think your attitude matters. Attitude only really comes into play when it's 2 drivers who are really close, battling each other all the way to the last race, because then you've got a problem. How do I manage these drivers? But when you've got a performance gap, it's easier regardless of attitude. Like, you can easily just say, Leclerc can easily just beat him. He doesn't even need team orders probably. But I think Perez will be a good number 2. I think Sainz will be a good number 2. Ricciardo's a bit complacent, and Hulkenberg, I don't think should even be in the discussion. But yeah, Perez for me is definitely worthy of being on this list. Now, next driver on this list it's the smart choice. I think it's the smart option. If you've got a big brain, you should be thinking about this, Binotto, if you're watching this video. Valtteri Bottas. Now, I don't think Bottas is going to go to Ferrari. I think he'll just decline whatever contract Ferrari throws at him. But I think it's worth having a try. It's worth having a go. Because here's the thing. Ferrari's main rival is Mercedes. Where is Bottas right now? In Mercedes. Mercedes right now is a well-oiled machine. It's perfect. Hamilton is happy. Bottas is happy. They're happy with each other. They're both happy that they're teammates with each other. The team atmosphere is perfect. Bottas is willing to play the team game more than any other driver on the grid, I feel. He's a very calm, obedient. He's a very useful driver. And honestly, he's not even a bad driver. He's actually pretty decent. He's a decent driver. He's good. He's not bad at all. He's nowhere near as good as Hamilton, but he's not bad. He's all right. He's a good number 2. He's a dependable number 2. Like, he takes points off Hamilton's rivals, but he doesn't take points off Hamilton because he's not good enough to be Hamilton. And that's perfect. Ferrari should look at this and go, should I try and destabilize the Mercedes team and offer Valtteri Bottas a contract that he potentially cannot refuse? I don't know. Yes, he might be overpaid, but I think Ferrari at this point, what have they got to lose? They've not won a championship in 10 years. They should be throwing everything at throwing everything at the book. That's probably not the right phrase, but you know what I mean. Trying all the tricks in the book to win, and I think trying to destabilize the Mercedes team by by basically just stealing Bottas away from the Mercedes team and forcing Mercedes to hire a driver that they don't really want to hire at the moment. Just trying to have a psychological battle and just have a mental warfare with the Mercedes team. Honestly, I think Ferrari should. I hope they're thinking about this. They should be. I think. I wouldn't say it's 100% realistic, but I think it's semi-realistic. If you offer him, let's say Mercedes offers a £10 million contract to Bottas. If Ferrari offers a $20 million contract to Bottas, I think Bottas might think about that. He might think about taking that offer. And I think Ferrari needs to do all that they can to try and stop Mercedes. And I think that's a way of doing it. Destabilize the Mercedes team, force them to ruin the team dynamic, force them to hire a driver they don't really want to hire yet. And I think it would be George Russell, who's touted to be one of the most talented drivers. Imagine George Russell and Lewis Hamilton in the same car. Potentially, it could be, quite destabilizing. But anyway, Bottas, I think, is definitely an option that they should be considering. And I think it's a good shout. It's a good shout. To just try and mess up Mercedes, if anything. Right, there's 3 other candidates now that are just taking the piss at this point. And this kind of ties in with the Vettel thing. I'm going to talk about Lewis Hamilton. How Lewis Hamilton is being suggested as a potential option for Ferrari. I'm sorry. What a load of tosh. Hamilton is this close to breaking Michael Schumacher's records. And Mercedes is the team that has helped him to do that. If he goes to Ferrari, he's not got a chance in hell of breaking Schumacher's records. Why would he ruin his own career and go to a worse team? Mercedes is the best team right now. It makes absolutely no sense to go to Ferrari. No sense at all. Whoever suggests this, you're not very smart. I'm sorry. Just utterly absurd to suggest that nonsense, that Hamilton goes to Ferrari. Honestly, it makes no sense. As I've said, Hamilton is this close to breaking Michael Schumacher's records, and the only way he's going to break his records is if he stays with Mercedes. That is his best bet. Mercedes is a perfect team. They're the best team by a country mile, and they're going to continue to win. And look, okay, I'll say this. If Hamilton gets his 8th championship and breaks all of Schumacher's records, then yeah, I can see him going to Ferrari for a couple of years. I can see it then. But when at this point you're this close to breaking Schumacher's records, it's just stupid to just give up your chance of breaking the records. Honestly, yeah, sure. When he's breaking Schumacher's records, sure, yeah, he'll go to Ferrari. Maybe. I mean, I can't read his mind, but I'm sure he'll think about it. But right now, absolutely not. And the same thing goes for Sebastian Vettel going to Mercedes and partnering Hamilton. No, that is a stupid, utterly delusional statement there. Like, Hamilton and Vettel in the same team would be civil war. It would basically be another McLaren 2007 situation. It would be an utterly stupid idea to have those two in the same team. Mercedes is a smart team. They know what they're doing. They have a very good reason why Bottas is there instead of Verstappen or Leclerc or Vettel. It's just ridiculous to suggest Hamilton and Vettel in the same team. Or Vettel to go to Mercedes. Why would Mercedes leave Vettel? They've got Hamilton. And they've got George Russell waiting in the wings. All of these suggestions are just silly. Really, really silly. If you ask me. The whole Vettel-Hamilton swapping thing. It's just absurd. Stupid. And we've now got Antonio Giovinazzi. Antonio Giovinazzi is right at the bottom of any realistic candidate to go to Ferrari. He's right at the bottom. What the hell has Giovinazzi done to warrant a Ferrari seat? He's been utterly destroyed by a pensioner Kimi Raikkonen who's in his 40s And let's not forget, Raikkonen was beaten to a pulp by Alonso and Vettel. Like over 100-point gap. Giovinazzi's 25. In theory, he should be in his prime. 25 is young. He should be fit and healthy. Yet he was unable to beat Kimi Raikkonen, who's 40 and on his way out of the sport. That's just no. And it's not even the fact that Giovinazzi lost to Raikkonen. Raikkonen destroyed him in the first half of the season. In the second half, it was closer. I'll grant you that. It was closer between the two. And in fact, Giovinazzi was getting the better Raikkonen in qualifying towards the end of the season. But that's not good enough. Giovinazzi, for me, was as bad as Pierre Gasly in the first half of the season last year. Yet Gasly got all the stick, and I contributed to that. But I did mention in my video last summer that Giovinazzi also deserves some criticism for his performance. Because I think he's been absolutely crap, if you ask me, in that Alfa Romeo. Ferrari would be delusional to put Giovinazzi in that seat, honestly. I take Sainz, I take Ricciardo, I take Perez, I take Hülkenberg over Giovinazzi. Seriously, he is right at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to potential candidates. Seriously. That is just not an option. And last but not least, and this for me might just be more of a meme suggestion, Fernando Alonso. His time in F1 is done. Like, he's 38 years old. He's achieved, as you know, he's like Vettel. Alonso's achieved everything that he can. You know, he's a multiple world champion. He's won lots of races. He's achieved everything in the sport. He has a great legacy, just like Vettel. But he's had his time in the sport, and again, it doesn't make sense to suggest him to be at Ferrari. I think he'll probably do something like Indy 500 again. That's probably where he's going to be heading, because he's trying to achieve the Triple Crown, which has only been achieved by one other person. I think I might be wrong on that, but that's a very rare achievement to have in your collection. Let's just say that. And yeah, Alonso's time in Formula One is done. I think Alonso's underrated. To be honest with you, I think he gets too much hate these days. But having said that, his time is done. I'd love to see him, but nah. It's not gonna happen. And also Charles Leclerc. Honestly, I think Charles Leclerc might also. Honestly, I think he'd beat Alonso as well. Alonso, as I said, is 38. He's up. He's past his prime as well. Honestly, I don't think there's a way that Alonso can beat Leclerc in that Ferrari. No way. And Ferrari, I think, is planning to build that team around Charles now. So, yeah, that's it. I've discussed all my thoughts on all the potential candidates. Some of them are absolutely stupid, and some of them are very good options, I think. But yeah, I said I was going to rank them in terms of who I think should be most prioritized on the list and least prioritized. Now, for me, Daniel Ricciardo, out of the realistic options, and when I say realistic, everyone except Hamilton and Alonso is for me realistic. So I put Ricciardo at the top of that because he's shown in the past he's beaten Vettel in the same car. Like, he is, in theory, a strong match for Charles Leclerc, and he's gone toe-to-toe with Max Verstappen, who's probably the most talented driver on the grid right now. Ricciardo has proved it. He has proved his quantity. He has shown that he is capable of being in that Ferrari and not disappointing. Second choice, this is hard because there's three drivers here who, I mean, Perez, Sainz and Bottas are all great options. But now I'm thinking Perez has a great relationship with Aston Martin. And honestly, he essentially saved that team from bankruptcy 2 years ago, back when it was called Force India. And I think he's built a great relationship with the team. And Aston Martin is looking fairly promising. Like, Lawrence Stroll's pumping a lot of money into that team. I think Aston Martin's got a relatively bright future, if you ask me. I think Perez might actually be smart to stay where he is. But do I see Aston Martin as better than Ferrari at any point? Probably not. I don't know. Ricciardo's definitely at the top. I don't know. I'd probably put Perez over Sainz, but Bottas, is a tricky one because for me he's an outlier. He's kind of semi-realistic. I don't think he's 100% realistic, but I don't think he's completely out of the question. I think it's semi-realistic because I do believe his contract does run out this season as well. But yeah, tough. Would Bottas take a Ferrari seat if they offered him more money? Or if they offered him, I don't know, unlimited ice cream or something, I don't know. Because he knows the Mercedes is the best car. I just think Ferrari really should try and get Bottas to destabilize the Mercedes team. It would be the smart thing to do. If they could succeed, it would be a big brain move. That is tough. I don't think Bottas would go. I think Ricciardo would be my number one choice, and then I'd say Perez. Because honestly, that guy is long overdue for a top seat. He deserves one. He really does. He's in the top 10 best drivers on the grid right now. Easily. In my eyes. Like, let's look at it this way. He is the only driver in the hybrid era other than the top 3 teams to score 100 points in a season. Twice. He did it twice. And he's beaten some teammates who were previously highly rated. He's beaten Ocon, he's beaten Hulkenberg, and he's beaten Kobayashi on the same car. And before that happened, they were all highly rated drivers. Perez, you could argue, contributed to all their downfall. So yeah, I'd have Perez second best in that choice for Ferrari. Third best, I'd say Sainz. I think he's a solid choice. I do think, is he a bit overhyped because of 2019? I do think he is. I don't think he's amazing. I think he's just solid. He'll do the job. I think he's willing to play the team game, and I think he's a level. He's got a wise head there on his young shoulders, and I think he's willing to play the team game. So Sainz is not a bad shout. He's not a bad shout. And then I'd probably put Bottas after these 3, simply purely because, as I said, he's a semi-realistic. If he was a realistic option, I could genuinely see. I'd honestly have him second on the list, as I've already explained. But yeah. So Ricciardo, Perez, Sainz, Bottas. And then I'd have Hulkenberg, because honestly, Giovinazzi is trash as far as I'm concerned. He does not deserve that Ferrari seat in the slightest. He has not done anything to earn that. Hulkenberg has proven himself to be reliable when he's not on the podium position. Let's just say that. When he's on the podium position, he chokes, he balls it. But he brings the car home. He's a solid performer. So I'd probably rate him after those guys. And then I'm just going to rule out Alonso and Hamilton because it's just not going to happen. Those two are not going to join Ferrari. So I'll probably put Giovinazzi. So I'll do it this way. Ricciardo, Perez, Sainz, Bottas, Hulkenberg, and Giovinazzi. And I don't think Hamilton and Alonso they're not going to be in contention. But whatever Ferrari do, I hope they make the right choice. I think my first 3 candidates, or first 4, are good choices. After that, meh. But I'd love to see Ricciardo in that seat. But Italian media are reporting that it's going to be Carlos Sainz. So fair enough. That's not a bad shot. As long as it's not flipping Giovinazzi. God, that would be a terrible choice. That would be a mistake by Ferrari. But it wouldn't surprise me because Ferrari is incredibly incompetent. But that's it. Vettel leaves Ferrari, and we've got a whole load of conversation about who replaces him. I'm looking forward to seeing how this unfolds. Will Vettel retire, or will he join another team? Could he join Renault, McLaren? Probably he could join McLaren, but I think he's going to retire. But that's for another video. All that's been announced is Vettel leaving the Ferrari team. That's it. And who's going to replace him? What will Seb do? That's all speculation at the moment. But anyway, that's all I've got to say for this video. And yeah, let's see how this situation goes. But until the next time, guys, catch you later.